Blackout bust, Rutgers wrestles defeat from the jaws of victory. Have I softened my stance since my post-Iowa game rant? Yeah, no. Let's get to it. Okay, so let's go through a Rutgers-Iowa recap. My post-game rant and angst over another loss to Iowa was despondent over our inability to take a next step. And yeah, it was pretty negative. Well-deserved, I might add. After considering my initial reaction, I haven't changed my viewpoint whatsoever. There's no nuance or finessing this here. It's not just one game in a black hole and we're on to Minnesota season. Even if I was tired, after 1 a.m., getting home from yet another loss in a game that was winnable against an opponent that's in the upper half of the Big Ten and somebody that's a good team but beatable and represented the next step for us to take. It's deja vu all over again. Iowa's 5-0 against us. It's another season where we start 3-0, 4-0, get into the big boys, Big Ten, better competition. And the injuries start to mount up. We had, 3-4 guys go down in that game, including what might be somewhat serious injury to Moses Walker. We'll get to that in a second. Every year since 2020, as soon as the competition gets, we're feeling good, we're 3-0, 4-0, whatever it is. And then, we go on to lose 3 or 4 in a row. And that better not be the case this year going into Minnesota next week. I want to include the shutdown here. That was all kind of weirdness. We lucked out against Washington last year. They outplayed us. They made more mistakes. Coleman and Will Howard carved us up. We lost 4 in a row. 2023, we lost the last 4 out of 5 after starting off winning 3 in a row. And we sandwich a Wagner win in there in between losses to Michigan and Ohio State. By the way, and I'll get more to I'll get to this more later on. By the way, we also beat Indiana 31-14. We'll get to Indiana, Illinois in a second. 2022, we win 3 in a row. Lose next 8 out of 9. Beat Indiana. My, how the times have changed. Indiana destroys Illinois. 2021, we win 3 in a row, lose 4 in a row, close out the season with 3 losses. It's this same process all over again. At least we're consistent. Hopefully this year we change it somewhat. I'll say this, we can make up for this loss that was a winnable game and a game where for the first time against Iowa we showed some offense, and I'm not including that Evan Simon 300-yard game. That was kind of empty yards. Go get back-to-back road wins against Minnesota and Washington. It can be done. Washington's going to be a little tough. We'll get to that in a second. We had this game within our grasp. even with special teams meltdowns, allow Mr. Special Teams, our great special teams, return for a touchdown on the opening kickoff. There might have been some collision between two special teams players on the field that created that hole up the sideline. I didn't really get to see the film on it, but a missed and a blocked field goal. Critical penalties, the worst times. Another soft defensive performance, although somewhat better. Some sketchy officiating. Mugging. I mean, they couldn't stop KJ and Ian all night, so I guess you just try mugging them. We got a couple calls, but not so much on some others. Some coaching glitches. We're up 28-24, 8-9 minutes left. And then it happens. A defensive interference call on an Al-Shadi Salam 3rd and long on a good series where the defense was getting pressure, making Grunowski a little bit uncomfortable. But as soon as that happened, it was just like the collective, oh, come on, man. And you knew we were going to wind up paying for that. Because if we got the ball back with pretty good field position and stayed somewhat aggressive, chewed up some clock, get at least a field goal and a touchdown lead, God, maybe you get a touchdown, and Iowa needs 2 scores with 3-4 minutes left. But you knew Iowa was going to march downfield, and they did, including a 40-yard pass. Wide receiver kind of stretched out, made a good play on it. The missed opportunities, the mistakes, and seemingly predetermined fate that Iowa is just, they're not Ohio State. They're not even Penn State or Michigan, and we can't get over that hump. Another loss to a good team on a night where the vibes were high. Our offense surprised. Scores on our first 3 possessions. And a potentially first quality Big Ten win within our grasp. 8 minutes left. You can feel it. No more rock fight. No more, rushing for 37 yards in a 6-0 game in the 4th quarter in Iowa. We wind up losing 22-0. I mean, you could, after that defensive stop on 3rd and long, 8 minutes left, you can feel, okay, this could be it. It was not to be. Why would it be? We can't have nice things. And I've said this before in other videos and other rants, not just about the program, but about the university, the way we're set up, our higher education system. I'd almost prefer the old days of, when I was an adolescent, getting wins against Bucknell, Lehigh, Columbia, and Holy Cross. At least they'd be wins with a more academically rigorous program against good schools, have some fun, be good every year, maybe get to a bowl game and knock somebody off, but I digress. Despite the offensive production and feeling that this was a different day or night, it just wasn't to be. It's really frustrating, especially when you watch both Illinois and Indiana. Illinois is ranked number 9, Indiana 19, probably should have been flipped. Watched Indiana dismantle Illinois with a balanced attack, running it and throwing it. Their James Madison guys were extremely disruptive up front. Indiana, not only were they dominant offensively and balanced, they had 7 sacks, 12 tackles for loss. That's more than we'll have in 4 games. against Illinois, who's a good team. Not great. I think they're overrated. And within a couple of years, Cignetti turns that program around. Worthy of a college football playoff. How long is it going to take us? I haven't looked at the recruiting rankings in a while, but I'm almost positive that we've had better classes than they have. 63-10. Now, Illinois probably isn't that bad. Indiana probably not that good. But they were able to get their guys in space. Not everything, was these guys were open, in that RPO system, they'd get open out in the flat and get a lot of yak. So the stats, they had over 500 yards. You look pretty good. But it's not rocket science. When do we get to have that? We struggle on our short passes, tight ends, running backs. We get 3, 4, 5 yards. Why is that? Why can't we get these guys in position out in space to get them to make plays downfield like everybody else does, including Iowa had a screen pass on 3rd down long for a 1st down. Why can't we have these nice things? Go out and beat Minnesota and Washington on the road. Syracuse was a 17.5-point, Fran Brown. This is just lovely. 17.5-point underdog to Clemson playing in Death Valley. And they destroyed them, despite their quarterback going down in the second hit. Can you imagine that happening to us? Friday night's energy and excitement was high. You knew it was a different kind of night. Got to the yellow lot, and it was filled. That never happens. Longest lines for the bus at Jersey Mike's I've ever seen, and that includes Ohio State a couple of years ago. Excitement's really high. Opening kickoff, touchdown. Already, we're deflated. It's not going to be one of those. Is this like an Iowa jinx thing going on here? All right, let's see how we respond. The offense is pretty good. Can it be good against a top defense like Iowa, who wants to play close to the vest, play physical in the trenches, and keep things ugly? Okay, DT, 5 yards. 21 yards to KJ. 40 yards to DT. Antoine, 5-yard touchdown. Yay, we respond. All right, good stuff. No more, 3 yards in a cloud of dust and punting 10 times in a game. It was interesting watching Iowa to begin with. They haven't had success passing all year. That's been no secret. Gronowski's been $1 million, kind of a bust so far, but they run the ball well. They start off long pass broken up. O'Neal, tackle 4-yard loss. Deep sideline pass. They're throwing deep. Everybody else sees what we see. They're going after our secondary. They're going after our safeties. Nonetheless, Iowa punts. All right, we kind of stemmed the tide a little bit. Punt. So they punt. I think we might have probably deflected the punt, get it at the 37-yard line. Antoine 6 yards. Antoine 3 yards. Antoine again gets 1st down. Ian Strong gets a 1st down. Fletcher 5 yards. And Fletcher just misses a touchdown pass. Weber gets 5-yard pass. KJ 23-yard pass. And Athan, nice 5-yard scamper out to the left side. Touchdown. All right. We're moving the ball. This ain't your older brother's Iowa Rutgers game. Iowa gets the ball back. They return it to the 27. Gronowski gets a 10-yard run. Then they get a 9-yard run. Okay, Iowa's starting to run the ball, do what they want to do. They did a little tight end middle screen, like for 20 yards. And I think at the game, I didn't really see offensive holding or interference on the play, but Mike from the night report said it absolutely happened. So that might explain why this tight end. That's what I'm saying. They get their guys in face. It was maybe a 5 or 6 yard pass, gets 20 yards out of it. Almost sacked on that play, too. I mean, we had, I've talked about this, where against traditional run between the tackles, throw the ball downfield kind of offenses, we can do a good job. It's those RPO mobile quarterbacks that give us a hard time. So we almost got to Gronowski a bunch of times, but he broke contain a bunch. And he was able to get first downs and run the ball somewhat. He's a big guy, so he's not particularly athletic or fast, but he gets his yards and first downs and touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns rushing in this game. No passing touchdowns, but they didn't need it. So we almost sacked him on the play. Defensive holding, terrible. We had him. Mistakes at critical moments once again. So, of course, they get a 13-yard run and then a Gronowski TD run. 14-14, we get the ball back. Deep sideline pass to KJ. Missed the blatant interference. I don't know what it is. Next play, they actually call the interference. Jay Sean gets a couple yards. He didn't have a particularly productive night. That would be his longest run of the night. We have an 8th and scramble. And then we throw one deep on the sideline. We get another interference call. Ball's at the 43. Antoine gets 3 yards, gets 6 yards, gets 4 yards. First down at the 30. Just missed KJ down the sideline. Fletcher gets 12 yards, 3-yard sack. Fletcher gets 7 yards. We're going for those short tight end passes. The refs miss another interference call. You get a couple, you're not going to get 3. Ball was a little bit behind. Illegal procedure penalty. 3rd mistake in the first half already. Field goal, doinked. 31-yard field goal goes through. We're called for illegal procedure. We move it back to the 36-yard line, and that costs us points. The first of 2. The second one was a block. Iowa's next series, Gronowski had a couple decent runs, screen yard, good gains, good pressure. But we stopped them. They punted to us. We're deep in our own territory, and we can run the ball conservatively to Antoine a bunch of times. It's 4th and 1. And instead of playing, there's a lot of criticism about this, and this is one of those coaching glitches where instead of punting the ball out of bounds, they punt it to their top return guy who gets it around midfield, and it looks like he's going to go in for the score, but he's stopped inside the 20-yard line and the clock run out. I think there was 14 seconds left at the beginning of the punt. That was a little bit of a scare. But, we get the ball to start the second half. Will we come out and do what we usually do and just come out flat in the third quarter? And sure enough, we do. 6-yard sack, almost sacked again. KJ for 7 yards, incomplete. Punt. Just a bad first drive. Come out flat once again. Iowa gets the ball. They have some running plays. Gronowski runs for a first down again. Wide receivers wide open again. They had open receivers. Even though they didn't throw at them, they had wide open receivers. Getting a little bit of pressure on a couple pass attempts. Just missed again. But at least they didn't come out like in Ohio and just go right down the field. We get the ball back. And Iowa, it was really apparent they were going to come out in the second half and apply pressure, and they did. They were applying serious pressure, making Ethan uncomfortable in the first several series, and Ethan looked a little bit uncomfortable. Had to rush some passes, played his other them. He had to get rid of them quick. He couldn't just sit back there and pick them apart like he did in the first half. But now it's at a point we had an incompletion to Weber, and we're losing a little bit of our mojo. We need to get going. We're out of rhythm. We had a complete 6-yard completion to Ian Strong, and it's not a great series. Go back to punt. They got to again have a really good rush on us. Run to the sideline to try to avoid. Towards the sideline to avoid getting the punt blocked. Gets it away. Low line drive that actually takes a really good bounce inside the 5. But the punter, we got the call for roughing the kicker, or we thought we did, but because he was a runner at that point, no call. But the ball's at the 3-yard line. So, all right. Iowa has a couple runs, 3rd and 7, finally get a sack. All right. O'Neal, good job. We get the ball back. Antoine, 0 yards. He had kind of a subpar night. Ian, 41 yards. Okay, this is a deep pass. Maybe it gets us started, gets us into rhythm. Antoine gets 3 yards. We miss KJ in the end zone. Ethan had a few misses. I don't see how he was the highest rated PFF score according to Richie O'Leary, who posted that on X. We'll get to that in a second. Jay Sean on 3rd down catches the ball, open space in front of him, falls down. Terrible. 1-yard gain. It's just one of those things. All right, we come out for a makeable field goal, blocked. Unbelievable. Terrible special teams. We're sort of like the basketball team now. We've changed from a defensive first, gritty, tough team to going more offense, but we can't play defense, and we're making too many mistakes and don't play it well in other areas of the game. Now, Politi loves this. Oh, it's more fun to watch. But the results are the same. You beat the bad teams. You lose to the good teams. So what's so fun about this? There's no incremental progress. But this game in the second half is turning out to be like an old Iowa Rutgers game. Nobody wants it. Gronowski scrambles, gets 10 yards, 4-yard run, 4-yard run, 15-yard pass, first down, open receivers all over the place. And then we get a face mask on top of that. So another critical penalty. Iowa gets to the 13, Gronowski flushed out, throws it out of bounds, so at least we got a little pressure on him. I think this was the play that Moses Walker got hurt on. Gronowski misses an open receiver. It was a low pass, and he would have had to scoop it off and shoot tops. But if he hits him, that's a touchdown. They hit a 24-yard field goal. It's 24-21 Iowa. We get the ball back in 10 yards, in 36 yards. By the way, he was a monster tonight. We'll get to those later. In 14 yards, the in drive. Just missed KJ in the end zone. Again, might have been held on that too. KJ 10 yards, KJ 7 yards. Antoine gets some yards. He gets a couple more runs and a touchdown. That's the way you do it. Getting the ball to your big guys, running effectively. 9:44 left. Iowa bobbles the kick. He had open space in front of him. If he returned it, it would have been a good return. But he bobbles it, falls on it at the 20. 10-yard rollout pass, 5-yard run, just missed the sack again. On the next play, we got one. Cam Miller gets a sack, 4 yards. Good pressure. Incomplete pass. 3rd down and long, out to the visitor side. Crowd's jacked. They can feel it. Less than 9 minutes left. This could be it. Let's get the ball back. Still be aggressive, but control the clock a little bit. Run 5 minutes off the clock. Get it down to 3-4 minutes. Up a touchdown, or heaven forbid, 2 scores. Defensive holding. Al-Shadi Salam. Now, I did see it on replay, and he kind of did, but his arms kind of slid off and wound up like this. So it could have gone either way, and they were, swallowing the flags a little bit, especially against us at the end. So, either way, I guess it's okay. But nonetheless, to me, this was the play of the game. So, of course, Iowa continues to drive. 40-yard pass. Outstretched receiver. Makes a good catch. The ball's at 11. Gronowski runs 10 yards to the 1. And then on the following play, Gronowski walks in. 5:39 left. 31-28. Let's see what we got. Let's see if we can march down the field and at least get a field goal. First play, we miss Ian. Threw too late. Ian's route was, it looked a little off. Antoine, this is a game that, this is a play that, what are you doing? You're trying to trick him with an RPO delayed handoff. 5 minutes left. You were having success being aggressive. And that's your play? You think you're going to trick them or something? What, you might break one for, 15, 20 yards up the middle, which you haven't been able to do all night. We had a total of 70 yards rushing on 30 carries, 2.5 yards per carry. Antoine averaged 3.5 yards per carry. So now you're in a position 3rd and 8, and this is the play of the game. You have to make this or it's over. Why put that pressure on yourself? Ethan goes back. He's hit as he throws. Interception's not his fault. He was hit as he throws. Ball floats up into the air. Linebacker kind of makes a diving catch on the ground, makes the play. And for all intents and purposes, game over. Now, Iowa gets the ball back. You knew they were going to drive it and score, and they did. They had a 1-yard run with 2 minutes left. It's over. No chance for a window dressing touchdown to make it like 38-35 as we finish our final drive with a sack and 2 incompletes. And the ensuing downtrodden walk of frustration back to the buses to Jersey Mike's Arena. And all the grousing accompanying yet another loss and a winnable game against a good opponent. Same old story. I feel like Jets fans. It's the same old story. Doesn't matter what year it is. So that's the story of the game. Let's get to some stats. First downs, Iowa 23. We had 20 Third down conversions, we weren't terrible, 6 for 13. Iowa was 3 for 8, so they weren't great. Total net yards, we hit a 400-yard mark against a pretty good defense. And coach said after the game, if you can do that and get 28 points, you should win, which kind of demonstrates that he thinks it's the defense has some issues here. We had more plays, 70 to 56. Average yards per play were about the same. I was 6'2", we had just under 6, 5.7. The rushing game, their ability to get the tough yards and control the ball a little bit worked to their advantage. Eighth and 330 yards passing to Gronowski's 186. I mean, it wasn't spectacular. 12 of 18, 186 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But it's Iowa kind of ball. Run it, throw it downfield, play the defense. Iowa, once again, showed why they're the least penalized team in the country with 2, and we had 6, and most of them costly. Antoine, 18 rushes, 62 yards. Jay Sean, 2 rushes for 4 yards, non-factor, and we've talked about wanting to get him more involved in the game plan. Didn't work out against Iowa. The big guy was Ian Strong, 8 catches, 151 yards. DT had 3 for 51. Kenny Fletcher had 3 for 24. Weber, 2 for 11. Jay Sean, 1 for 1. So Athan winds up going 24 for 40, 330 yards. I mean, it's a lot of yards to get against a good defense. That one interception, really not his fault. Now 1,150 yards, just under 69% completion, which we'd take at the beginning of the year, but we still have the meat of the schedule to go through. 7 touchdowns, interception, averages 287 yards per game. Now, if you thought that at the beginning of the year, you thought we'd have a pretty good year. Richie from the Night Report posted something where he was the top-rated PFF guy at 87%. I don't know how he missed a few guys, maybe in the first half. And then Ian Strong had like 79. What? Jabomi also had a good PFF rating, but not super high. I think he had 7 tackles. So he might have been second on the team in tackles against Iowa behind Eric O'Neill, who had 9 and 2 tackles for loss. So there's some production there against a good Iowa team. Gronowski, in addition to his 12 of 18 for 186, had 3 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. It's kind of what he does. Jed Elad, he had 9 tackles. Jabomi and Abram Wright, 7 each. Good to see Abram Wright have some production. And O'Neill had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a Cam Miller tackle for loss. So now it's on to Minnesota. It's time for the team to actually get better, as coach says they will be. Going to be Minnesota on the road, who's 1-1, lost to Cal fairly easily, 27-14, I want to say it was. And then Cal yesterday loses 34-10 to San Diego State. And Minnesota, struggled with Buffalo, pulled away late, 23-10, even though they had the statistical advantage. Go beat them. I know it's a road game. I know it's a peer program. We're kind of in the same boat, that middling boat. Go beat them. And you know what? You can make up for this bad loss that we should have had as a win. It's not quite Illinois from last year. By beating Washington on the road, beating Minnesota on the road, and getting to 5-1. That's what good teams do. Washington's going to be a problem. We get that. They're 4-0, beat Washington State 59-24, held Washington State to 27 yards rushing while getting 173. Coleman's going to be a problem for us. But they gave up almost 300 yards passing, so we have opportunities there like we had against Iowa, who's a better defense. Washington State kind of controlled the ball, but Washington's a big play team. Statistically, they don't run up the points and yards the way you think they would, but they do get big plays. Desmond Williams, 16-19, 298 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's going to be a problem. Coleman, kind of quiet. He 12 rushes, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. But Desmond Williams, also, he rushed for 88 yards on 13 carries. Mobile quarterback who can throw it. Going to be a problem, maybe worse than Will Howard. Denzel Boston, 6 catches, 107 yards. He's probably a second-round pick. Coleman had 6 catches for 104 yards out of the backfield. That's going to be a problem and a backbreaker. Something we don't do with our running backs. I don't get it. Everybody else does. We'll have trouble all over the place against Washington. Go in there and beat them. Let's have a Big 12 kind of 41-38 kind of game. It's the only chance you stand. Nonetheless, it's on to Minnesota. Get to 4-1. Get ready for the middle third of the schedule. That includes Minnesota, Washington, Oregon, and Purdue, who lost 58-30 to Notre Dame. But, they put up 30 points on Chris Ash's defense. So we'll have that before Oregon. Go 3-1. Be 6-2 going into Illinois. Illinois is very beatable, not just because they lost 63-10, but I feel they're kind of overrated, but they're still pretty good. Remains to be seen if they'll be ranked or not, but, if they get some wins, they'll probably be ranked. And Maryland. Maryland will be a problem. Malik Washington, 4-star quarterback, doing very well. They don't run the ball very well, so we have an advantage there. But we know about those mobile quarterbacks that can throw it. So Maryland will be a problem. They beat Wisconsin, 27-10? Wisconsin destroys us last year. We beat Maryland. Now Maryland's destroying Wisconsin. This is going to be a kind of year that we have no idea where it is we actually stand. You can't just pencil in wins and losses. That being said, go get it. Beat the teams, beat our peers, teams you need to beat. Go be 8-2 before Ohio State. It's doable. You're going to get better. If you're going to fix things, that's what you got to do. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good week. It's on to Minnesota season, and we'll see you then.